So if you are trying to build a personal brand, or if you're building a personal brand, this video is going to be absolutely important because building a personal brand is one of the highest levers that you can pull within any business. But the thing about building a personal brand is that it doesn't increase key funnel metrics within your sales motion so that you can drive cash flow today. Not a year from now, not 3 years from now, not 5 years from now, today. Okay, and that is exactly why I have spent hours upon hours upon hours, not only studying some of the best marketers and some of the best business owners in the industry, but actually working for them and working within the systems that they have built. Okay, and in today's video, I'm gonna be breaking down how this pro marketer pre-sells with his content and how he was able to build and grow not just one, but several companies from zero to $2.5 million a month with zero advertising, with no advertising, no ads, no budget on advertising, cost to acquire zero. And I'm going to be breaking down exactly how he does it today. Okay. And so you may or may not know who this marketer actually is. His name is Matt Ryder. And well, he was CEO of Seventh Level at the time that I was working there. And right now he's, the founder and CEO of a company called Dialer.io, which is essentially a dialer that allows sales teams that want to make more money to increase the contact to lead ratio with the software. Okay. And I want to go ahead and take a moment to define what actually makes someone like a pro marketer. Like I can't just throw that label out without actually defining it, right? And by the way, real quickly, if I'm looking at the screen or if I'm looking away from the camera, that's because my camera is over here and my screen is right here, okay? And obviously, I have this in front of me for structure, so I can provide a little bit more value for you. But what actually makes someone a pro marketer, right? Well, it's actually quite simple. Because let me tell you a little bit of story to kind of set the foundation for this. Because when I was in sales, what made a salesperson a really good salesperson was really determined by one metric and one metric only. And that was how much money you made. Okay. It wasn't how smooth your word tracks were. It wasn't how good you thought you were at selling. It wasn't how hard you worked. It wasn't how many hours you spent on the phones. It wasn't how many sales calls you've taken. It wasn't how much experience you have in the industry. It's not how many years you've been in the game for. Like, who cares? At the end of the day, what determines a salesperson, like what is a good salesperson, is how much money they have made and how much money they have generated the business. Okay, not how much money they've made in their commissions, but how much money they've generated the business. And this was really hard for me to understand because I am someone that lives on I'm someone that takes things to its extreme, right? And so I can either be really, really lazy and kind of just, fuck around and do nothing, which I'm rarely ever there. I'm only there if I need to be there, by the way. But on the other side of that spectrum, I'm also very, very hardworking, and I'm willing to do what it takes to do what I need to do and achieve my goals. That's just how I was raised, right? My father, he's a very hardworking man, and he has set the example for me. And so I say that to say that when I was actually working for seventh level under Matt Ryder, I thought I was a really good salesperson because I was putting in hours, man. I was dialing leads. I was the guy that had the most dials every single day. And that was a metric that I prided myself on. That was a metric that I thought was the end all be all. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to get a raise. I'm the best guy here because I'm the hardest worker here, but nah. Unfortunately, at that time, I failed to understand what actually mattered, which is how much money have you generated the business, right? And it's the exact same thing with a business owner, except the stakes are a little bit higher, okay? The stakes are a little bit higher. And it's not about how much you've generated, like how much revenue you've done, but it's about how much have you profited. Like, what is your margins? Like, what is your actual net profit? How much are you taking home? How much are you putting in your bank? How much cash does a machine spit out? Right? At the end of the day, the metric that I believe, in my opinion, is the most important as a business owner is profit, net profit. Right? It's not revenue. It's not how many hours you work per day. It's not who thinks has the best product. It's not how many reviews you have. It's not how many, how long you've been in the industry for. It's not, like, I see this so many times, especially with like local businesses. And I don't want to talk about local businesses because that's not my target market, but like with like the high ticket space, there's a lot of companies out there that will use that in their marketing where it's like, oh, I've been doing this since you were a child or born. Like, I've got 10 years, 17 years. Like, who gives a fuck? Like, I'm sorry, excuse my language, YouTube, but none of that matters. The only thing that matters is the bottom line. That's why it's called the bottom line. And that's why the term bottom line, let's get down to the bottom line, is the most important thing. Because the only thing that matters is the bottom line, is net profit. Okay? And so I just wanted to drive that point home a little bit more, but let's say that there are two business owners in question. Okay, business owner A, let's call him Jared. Jared, you're business owner A, I'm sorry. Okay, but this is you. Let's say you've brought in $1 million in revenue in, let's say a month. Let's say you bring in $1 million in revenue in 1 month, right? You got a team of 10 people. You've got setters, you got some closers, you've got a sales manager on there, and obviously you've got student success coaches, and you're spending heavily on ads, all of it. And so by the end of all of that, you're taking home and you're netting 300K. Okay, so revenues, $1 million, take home or net, let's just say net to keep it simple, is 300K. Okay, that's Jared, that's business owner A. Now business owner B brings in 500K in revenue, so half as much as Jared. So let's call this guy Ben. Okay, so Ben is making half as much as Jared, right? Like on paper, like revenue wise. He's making he made 500K in a month. Let's just say that. And he has a team of 3 people, right? He's not running any ads, but he actually manages to net 400K. Huh. Well, that's interesting. And by the way, these aren't exact numbers, right? Obviously, this might differ business to business, and honestly, it might not even make sense, but just for example's sake, let's just stick with this. But like, Ben is making half as much revenue, but netting more than business owner A. And so this obviously makes a ton of sense once I explain it and I extrapolate it like this. And it's easy for me and for us to say this and nod our heads like, yeah, obviously I want to net more than not. Right? Obviously, the point is to make profit, but the discrepancy between this and what's actually happening in behavior in the market is huge. Okay? But from here, you can easily determine who the better business owner is. Right? And so that's the metric. Right? Business owner A is focused on vanity metrics, and that's whether he knows it or not, by the way. That's absolutely key. Like, he might not know this. And like, he might look at his revenue and be like, that's a pretty good month. I did $1 million. But that's because he doesn't know business owner B exists. He's not looking at Ben's business, right? But Ben, business owner B, he doesn't care about what others think of him. Like, he's not worried about what revenue is. He's not worried about Stripe screenshots. He's not worried about all of that shenanigan stuff, right? He's worried about what actually matters, right? And he makes half as much on the front end, but takes 4 times more on the back end. 4 times more. That actually doesn't make sense. That's not 4 times more, right? He makes more than what Jared does. I don't know where I got 4 times more when I was writing this. But yeah, he makes more than Jared does. Business owner A. I'm just gonna edit that. That's gonna drive me crazy. So yeah, you can easily, you tell me who is the better business owner here, right? Is it business owner A, Jared, or is it business owner B, Ben? Pretty simple, right? At the end of the game, the man who wins is the man who profits. There you go. There's a quote. Oscar Sanchez, 2025. And if that is the game, then you should ask yourself, what is the thing? What is it that kills profit more than anything else? What are the things that you want to avoid as much as possible to be the best business owner, right? And there's really only three things here. The first thing is overhiring. So let's say you have more people on your team than you need to, or you're hiring less talented people and it takes more people to then deliver the same outcome within your business, then you're probably overhiring, right? So you're spending more on talent that isn't good enough. And not even just having them in the business, but also finding them, onboarding them, keeping them, maintaining them, even the resources to do all of that, right? So you're just overhiring, you're overspending on that end, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is lost sales. So how many sales are you losing, right? So if your sales motion is not where it needs to be, if your sales team isn't producing, if you are, not touching every single lead, or at least an optimal amount of leads that you get into the business, then that's a lot of a lost potential, right? Let's say you have, to keep things simple, let's say, that you have 1,000 leads come in within the business, and your sales team or your setters or SDRs or whatever, whoever's talking to the leads, let's say you're only contacting, 5% of those leads. Well, what about the other 95%? What about the other 950 people that have explicitly told you, hey, I have this problem. Hey, I have this problem. I might be looking for a solution. Hello, I need help. What about those people? What about the other 950 people? You know what I mean? And so that is a huge profit killer, right? If that just means that you're not bringing in enough cash flow into the business today, right? Which brings it back to what I initially mentioned in this video. And this is one of the most important ones. This is one of the ones that kind of go unlooked. And so unless you have the data on this, and unless you're watching your data like a hawk, you probably don't know this is a thing, and this probably is a thing in your business. Okay, I've seen this happen many, many times. And so that's the second thing, all right? Now, the third thing is ad spend. Kind of like overspending on talent, you might be overspending on ads, right? And you kind of notice all of these are interchangeable. All of these influence the other, right? So if you're overhiring on talent and your talent isn't that good, that means if your talent isn't that good, then they're let's say your sales, your setters, you're hiring cheap setters from some, person that's, promises that they'll put them in your business or whatever. I don't know. I've never worked with any of those people, so I can't say about that. But, for example, let's say you work with that kind of person, right? And then they put the setter in your business, but the setter only contacts 5% of your leads. Well, shit, dude, that means now that the cost to acquire is going to go up significantly. So now you're overspending on ads, right? And ads is one of those things that, if done correctly, this can be the lever within your business, the thing within your business that just unlocks an obnoxious amount of scale. But it's so difficult to get right. Speaking from experience, right? I've spent a lot of money on ads myself in the past, and it's hard to get right. That's because there's so many things in your business that needs to happen. There's so many keys that need to be turned in order for this to actually work profitably. Okay, because again, you could have a 10x return on ad spend, but if it's not profitable, let's say you're over hiring, you're overspending on talent, then like that 10x ROAS is just going to be like significantly squeezed, like lowered. Like you see what I'm saying? And so these three, you want to avoid like the plague, right? You do not want to overspend on talent, right? You want to make sure that your sales process is optimized and that you have the data to know what is wrong and know what is the lowest hanging fruit and know what it is that you and your sales team should be focused on. And then ad spend, you don't want to overspend on ad spend. Like, yeah, it's okay to, spend money on ads, but it has to be profitable, right? And I can go hours and hours and hours on end on this, but for now, let's just keep it simple. And so if you were to knock out all three of these with one stone, what would it be? If you were to solve all three of these problems, let's say you're a business and you have at least one of these or all three of these, if that's you, then whew, man. But let's say that you are a business and you have and you want to knock these out with one stone. Like that's like, what is the definition of leverage? Is putting in minimal input to get optimal, sometimes maximal output. Okay, so if you want to ask yourselves that question, like what is the one thing that is going to solve that? And when I was studying Matt Ryder, it was his content. It was his organic growth. It was his product and his frame of being product-led growth. Essentially just growing by word of mouth. Because when you have an organic motion, when you have an organic marketing, and it's designed to bring in cash flow rather than build a personal brand, whatever the hell that means, then money flows into the business like nothing else, right? You don't have to worry about overspending on ads because you might not have any ad spend, if you don't need it. And you don't have to worry about losing on sales because all of the people that come in from organic, well, they're already pre-sold on what your offer is and they already want to buy your thing. They already know that they have a problem. They want to solve the problem. And they want you to be the person that helps them solve that problem. So by the time they show up to a sales call, and by the way, they actually show up to the sales call, they're sold. All you got to do is fucking give them a reason to buy now. And so this is the key to solving all of this. And this is the key for profitable growth. Okay? You can run ads all day. You can definitely spend more on advertising. You can definitely 3x, 5x, 10x your advertising and grow. But you're just going to be growing a leaky bucket. If you haven't fixed everything else within the business, which by the way, again, it's easy to say, but happens time and time and time again where people just want to scale at any cost, but they forget about what actually matters within the business, which is number one, delivering results, and number two, making your thing damn good. That is the most important thing in business. Okay, in my opinion. Again, I'm just a guy in a black tank top, talking about other entrepreneurs, but man, I've been on the end of, working for brands like this compared to working with companies that have no brand, that overspend on advertising, that overhire on talent, that don't have an optimized sales process. And man, I can't even say who they are because they're not around anymore. Like this stuff matters. Okay? And so essentially, what is an intentional conversion asset? Well, it's a YouTube channel that is designed to increase key funnel metrics to make more money now, not later. Okay, everyone wants to build a personal brand. I get it. Yes, keep doing that. But you have to drive cash today. Your business, your customers need cash flow. Because how the hell are you supposed to deliver to them? How are you supposed to get results? if you don't have the cash flow to build the solutions to get them the results. Like that is the problem with this space right now, is everyone is good at marketing, but no one is good at delivering results, man. It's just, you know, and I apologize, but this makes me very, like, I'm very passionate about this because, yeah, this is the stuff that's hard to do, but is imperative. Okay, so that is what an intentional conversion asset is: a YouTube channel designed to build trust, designed to increase conversions, designed to position yourself in a market to demand higher prices. Everyone wants to be the expensive option, but you can't be the expensive option if, number one, you're commoditized, but also number two, you have a shit product, and number three, you can't be the expensive option if you don't have an intentional conversion asset. Okay? Whew. And so, like I said, this is the key, right? It brings in more cash flow so that better talent can be hired, and therefore less talent is needed. And instead of hiring 4 VAs to do one job, you hire one exceptional A player to do that job 10 times better and handle more responsibility, right? This is the key to pre-selling prospects. And that's the main point that I want to take home. And that is what I'm at least trying to do with my YouTube channel, okay? And it's not perfect, but we're getting better every day, okay? Now, channel positioning. All right, so channel positioning. Okay, so channel positioning. And so this is very important because if you're not able to stand out within a market and you're not able to get people to listen to you, well, number one, if you're not able to stand out, no one's going to listen to you. And if you're not able to get people to listen to you, no one's going to buy, right? You're not going to get lead flow. You're not going to get the traffic that is needed to grow your business. And so the channel positioning is going to determine whether or not you achieve that, whether or not people actually want to listen to you, whether or not you're able to influence others. Again, so this is very, very important. And the thing about channel position is that you need something competitors can't credibly claim in the same room as you, okay? And if they can, then you are a commodity, right? This can be on the product level. This can also be on the marketing level. And right now, I want to talk about this on the marketing level, right? Because most people sell the same thing to the same people in the same way, then wonder why no one listens, right? They say the same things to the same people in the same way, and they wonder why they can't get any leads from their personal brand, why they can't get any sales, or they can't get any traction, any real traction from their YouTube channel, right? And so you take the time and the effort to try and make an offer that is different than everybody else's, or at least I hope you are. But no one's actually taking the time and the effort to position themselves better or differently than everybody else's. Okay, and I, hey, I can say this myself. This is not an easy thing to do, right? Me trying to position myself in this market. But this is one of the most important things that you can do to, have an intentional conversion asset that actually converts and that actually works. Real positioning takes days, weeks, and ruthless analysis, right? So what you want to do is you actually want to sit down, list what everyone else is doing within the market, and strip away anything that they can also claim until only what's truly different remains. Okay, this is something that I got from Matt Ryder, and it's brilliant, right? It's brilliant. That's how he's been able to build his personal brand, his intentional conversion asset, and that's how he's been able to, do what he has done, and be positioned in the way that he's positioned now in the market. the easiest way to do this is to not copy everybody else. Go figure, right? Now, I've bought a lot of courses, a lot of programs. I've been part of a lot of all of that good stuff. And the thing is that everybody teaches to look on the paper of someone else. Everyone teaches to kind of look over and see what everyone else is doing. You know, whether it's with the titles of a YouTube video, whether it's the thumbnail, whether, you know, whatever it is, like the actual idea, the topic of the video, they tell you, you know, go to this channel, go to your competitor's channel, look what the outliers are, and then, you know, kind of just make that your own version. And like, that's good and that's great, but if it's too similar to what they're doing, then it's too similar to what they're doing, right? You're not going to stand out. And so I would still say follow that advice, but like, dude, you have to be different. You have to be yourself, right? There's only one of you. And so you have to be yourself. Okay. At least that's what I'm doing. And, yeah, so this is very important. And one thing that can definitely affect us as well is market timing and environmental factors, right? They play a big role in this as well. So market timing, I'll give you an example. So let's say that salespeople, you know, let's say commission-based salespeople, if they knew how to handle objections and they already worked really hard, that's the thing about salespeople. Most of them don't work very hard at all. But like, let's say they already knew how to sell, then Matt's content would flop, right? Because if you actually go on his channel and you'll see that that's basically what all of his content is just, you know, handling sales and sales training and objection handling and all that good stuff and getting better at sales. And that's because right now that is the hole in the market. Okay, but if the market already knew how to do that, then his content would flop and he would have to adjust, right? And you have to understand that people only do things that are in their best interest, right? They want to hit their goal faster with less effort, less risk, and with the highest likelihood of success. And so you want to align yourself with those interests and money will come. Now, the question then becomes, how the hell do you figure out what the market wants, and how do you align yourself with those interests, and how do you know that's what the market currently wants? Because the market is ever changing, and it's constantly changing, right? So this is always going to change. So let's go ahead and talk about that. So the link between sales calls and content. So I learned this pretty early on. I've been running sales calls, doing sales for the better half of the last 4 to 5 years. And, you know, I learned from a lot of people and I learned from a lot of business owners, you know, whether it's directly one-on-one or indirectly by just being in their business. And what I've noticed is that the best marketers, the best business owners, the ones that are making the most profit, the ones that are able to get attention and actually hold attention and actually, you know, position themselves in the way they need to be, they are obsessed with the people that they're selling to, right? They're obsessed with their market. And the thing about creating content that the market actually wants to watch is that you actually have to understand your market, right? And what is the best way to understand a person, let alone a market, is sales calls, right? And so what like fundamentally speaking, what a sales call is you're on a call to understand that person's situation, to understand their problem, their pains, their desires, and see whether or not your solution is a good fit. And if it is a good fit, then you show them what that would look like. And, you know, if they want to buy, they buy. That is what a sales call is. And so if you want to understand your market, then you just have to take more sales calls. But the problem is that after a certain level of scale, it's very easy to not want to take sales calls. But again, markets are changing and they're constantly evolving and they're constantly wanting different things and having different problems. And unless you have a team or a system that allows you to have your ears to the ground, then you're going to want to be on sales calls even after you have a sales team. Even if, let's say, you're at 100K a month, 300K a month, 500K a month, $1 million a month, you still need that feedback loop. You still need to know where the market is at. And you can, make the argument that, you once were the market, and that's good. Maybe you are part of the market. Maybe you are the market, right? That's great. But what you're doing is you were the market, right? So past tense, you were the market. So you understand the market where it was before. It could have changed by now. It could be entirely different, right? And so you want to have your ears to the ground. And the best way to do that is to take sales calls, right? Or take the data from sales calls. I'd say personally, just take the sales calls, right? Because you're actually on the call live trying to understand the person. That's the best way to do it. Is it scalable? No. But sometimes the most unscalable things are the things that create the highest leverage within the business, right? So Alex Hormozi, he's demonstrating this he demonstrated this in real time, right? And he ran workshops, like live workshops in his office, hundreds, thousands of workshops with real business owners, sitting in front of them in person, talking to them, trying to understand their business, literally trying to solve their problems in real time, in person, so that he can have the data and have the inputs, have the context to build his AI, to build his ACQ AI. And if you haven't used that, by the way, that thing is an absolute monster. So, that's an example of doing something that is unscalable in order to build something that is scalable, in order to build more leverage within the business. And so I think that one of the most important things to understand your market and therefore understand what is going on in their head and create content that is actually valuable to them so that they can trust you more is take sales calls, right? You have to do the unscalable to eventually do the scalable. And this is, I think, one of the things that not a lot of people understand. And if you do understand it, you're not really doing it. Okay. And it's easy to say this for me from my perspective, because I've taken a lot of sales calls. But this is something that, I'm doing at least within my business. And the key thing here is that you don't want to lose touch with the market, or you don't want to depend on a random copywriter, to just do it for you, right? Because that is when you start to lose attention. That is when you start to lose the market's trust. When you start talking about things that they don't care about, that's when they click off. That's when they unsubscribe. That's when they go to your competitor who is talking about things that they care about. And you definitely want to have leverage within your business, obviously, right? You want to have copywriters and all that, but you want to have the feedback loop that's coming directly from sales, from the sales team, from sales calls. Even better, if you're willing to do it, you want to have the feedback loop of directly taking sales calls. Okay? And this is, really important. At the very least, talking to the market. Right? It doesn't have to be sales calls, but at least talk to the market on a regular basis and actually try to understand them and their current situation. This is what I'm doing right now. So this is what I'm doing. So this is what I'm doing right now. This is exactly why I have built a community, and you can't really see the top half here, but I built a school community. It's called the Cashflow Collective, for this purpose, because I want to have my ear to the ground on the market, right? And obviously I'm going to, make this community super valuable and give a lot more than what I'm actually taking. And I don't plan on selling in this community. The vision of this is actually to have, people that have ran very profitable sales teams in here, teaching things about hiring the best salespeople, keeping them on board, incentive structures, sales team, sales processes, automations, ads, YouTube ads, Facebook ads, Meta ads, optimizing that, scaling businesses to $1 million a month. Honestly, that is the main vision with this community. And I want it to be crowdsourced. Like, I don't want to be the main guy teaching. Okay? Because I know I'm not good at everything. I can't be good at everything, right? I can only have, I can try to be good at everything, but honestly, I'd rather be very, very, very good at one specific thing rather than trying to do everything and kind of be mediocre at it. And so that's why I'm building that community. Now you can join that community if you want. Right now, there's nothing in there, but that's what the vision of that community is. And I'm still planning out what I do want to do with it so that you do have an incentive to join. But that you want to keep your ears to the ground and you want to do this as much as possible. Okay, whether it's taking sales calls, whether it's going to live events like seminars or networking events or whatever it is, you want to talk to the market as much as possible and actually understand them. Okay? And that's the link between sales calls and content. And I do believe that is why Matt Ryder creates content that is good and that people watch, and that allows him to take a company from zero to $2.5 million a month with zero advertising. I think that is exactly what allows him to build a software company coming from the high ticket world, scale it to $300K a month with no ads, $0 on ad spend, and scale it to 1,000 users, which, by the way, in the software world is unheard of. And so this is what it looks like when it is done correctly. Okay? A feedback loop is created, as I mentioned. So you create content, right? The prospect becomes aware of, they become aware of your YouTube channel, of your intentional conversion asset, and they become aware of your content, okay? And then they decide to consume the content. From there, they either find a value in it or not, and they either watch more or they don't. And then, over enough period of time, I should have probably drew another arrow here. You do this over and over again, and eventually they book a sales call, right? Because they trust you enough to help them solve their problem that they know that they have. And then on that sales call, they're going to tell you all of their problems and all their desires and their current situation. And they're going to give you objections as to why your solution is not the solution that they want to move forward with, or whatever it may be. And they're either going to buy or they're not. And so if they buy, then now you know that this sales process is the thing that's going to get them to give you money. And so if this data is the thing that's going to give you money, then you want to use that data to influence your content, right? And you create more of that content and you optimize this and you do as much volume as this as humanly possible. You want to create more content than anybody else's, honestly. And then from there, that's going to increase the likelihood of them buying because they're going to watch the content, they're going to trust you, and they're going to be pre-sold into the sales call. And so that's going to increase the likelihood of them buying. So this creates this virtuous cycle of growth, of profit. And this is why I think this is very, very, very important. And this is why I'm so adamant about this. This is why I talk about this. Like, this isn't new stuff. This is just stuff that works. It's tested. It works. Okay. And you want to ask yourself, why isn't your prospect showing up with crystal clear clarity on what their problem is? So if your prospects are showing up and you're asking them what their problems are and they can't give you an answer, what the hell are you doing on the sales call? Right? That's just, you have a very cold lead. You don't want to be selling to cold leads in today's day and age, okay? Because it's just too expensive to do that. You want to ask yourself, like, why are they humming? Like, why are your prospects still humming and hawing when you ask them these questions? Why are they throwing out objections? Why are they not closing on the first call? If it takes you more than one call to close on a high ticket offer that's not enterprise level, what the fuck are you doing? What's going on? Seriously, like, what is going on? Like, what are you doing within your sales process that is preventing them from buying? Because you're probably anti-selling that. You're probably unselling them, or your salesperson is, or your sales process is. There's something going on, and you need to find out what it is. It could be this. It could be the fact that you haven't optimized your content to drive cash today. You're trying to build a personal brand rather than drive cash flow. And by the way, I don't want to get too deep into this, but when you build content optimized for sales, you can still build a personal brand. You just sprinkle in other pieces of content on top of that. But anyways, I don't want to get into that right now. And so that's because you have not made them aware, right? So that's because you have not made them aware of any of their problems. You haven't made them aware of what the root cause of their problem is before they get on a sales call. They haven't trusted you enough. You haven't earned their trust to give you their hard-earned money. Because that's the thing about trust, is that it has to be earned. At least I genuinely believe that trust has to be earned. You can't just post content and expect people to trust you. Like, it has to be earned. And I talked about this in a different video, but if they're showing up with low intent, you can't expect them to just pay you in full on the first call. Like, that's like, think about that. That's kind of insane. That's kind of like going up to a girl, right? You know, let's say you guys lock eyes and you go up to her and you talk to her and, you know, she starts giggling a little bit and you ask for her number. That's kind of like trying to marry her on the spot. Like, yeah, she was interested, but like, dude, fuck. Take her out on a date first, at least. You know what I mean? And so that's you might not even realize it, but that's how absurd it is, trying to sell to low intent leads, to cold leads, to leads that don't trust you, to leads that have the option to literally buy from any business, that are watching your competitors' content, that are watching other, that no other options exist. That you can't just expect them to pay you in full on the spot. And so you have to earn the trust. You have to intentionally build this out. That's why I call it an intentional conversion asset, because it's intentional. Okay? So you build trust by providing so much value that it makes it unreasonable for anybody not to trust you, right? And like I mentioned, I broke this down in a previous video, the whole idea of providing value, but it's pretty similar to the sales call thing, right? So you just figure out what the problems are and you solve those problems, right? Without really asking for anything. You can ask for stuff. You just got to make sure that stuff that you're asking is improving their life or their business. Okay. Now, awareness stacking. So everything that I already talked about is more than enough to actually to build the right foundation, to build a machine that optimizes sales, right? With the channel positioning, right? With earning people's trust by getting real feedback, live feedback, whether it be with sales calls, through a community, events like live events, actually talking to your customers and understanding them. But, you know, all of those that's enough to build the foundation to actually start building a machine that increases those key funnel metrics and allows you to make more sales today. But I want to talk about something called awareness stacking that a lot of marketers know of, but no one actually implements into their marketing, into their content. Okay. And so once you understand the market and you never stop talking to them, because again, the market is ever changing, you want to meet them where they are. Right? So think about it. Right now in your business, you have a problem that you are facing or a problem that you think you are facing, and you are, at least I hope you are, focused on that problem, right? And so there's different beliefs around that problem. There's different, thoughts that go on in your head every single day when you're trying to solve that problem, right? And so what you're doing with your content is you're grabbing those thoughts, those ideas, those problems, the things that they're thinking about, and you're throwing it into your marketing. You're throwing it onto that, because what you're doing is you're showing, hey, I know what you're going through. I have the solution to this. That's essentially the simplest way that I could put it, right? And so you want to meet the market where they're at, right? And again, the only way you do this is by understanding them. Like understanding them where they're at right now, not where they were yesterday, not where they were a year ago, where they're at right now. And so I'm actually doing this with my marketing right now. And so if this content is not hitting home, that's because I'm not like right now, I don't have that feedback loop fully optimized. So that's actually when I'm working on the back end. Like you're not seeing this, but I'm working on that in the back end. But I'm still making content either way. I don't care. And so I am very much aware that this content is probably not hitting home, and I will make tweaks as I see fit. But you want to meet the market where they are right now. Okay? And if you're on sales calls and if you're constantly talking to them, then you understand where the market is right now. Right? And so there's something called the 5 levels of awareness, was first created by Eugene Schwartz. If you haven't read the book, Breakthrough Advertising, I'd suggest to read it. And essentially what you're doing is you want to meet the market where they are based on their awareness level, right? So let's say I want to lose weight. Let's say, this is an example I use all the time, but let's say I want to lose weight and I'm eating shit. I'm working out. I'm doing all the exercises I think I'm supposed to be doing, but I'm not losing any weight. Like, oh my God, I have this problem. I've been working out for a year now and I've only lost 5 pounds. Like, what's going on? That's a symptom of a problem, right? The symptom is I'm still fat. I've only lost 5 pounds, even though I've been working out. Now, the actual root cause of that problem might be because I'm still eating shit. That's why I haven't lost weight. And so you want to make, let's say the market, that's where the market is at. What you want to do is you want to create content that makes them aware of that problem. And then you provide solution. And then from there, they're going to be, solution aware. And then you want to make them brand aware. So eventually the market is going to get sophisticated enough that brand is going to be huge. And I don't want to get into that right now because that, again, is a whole other masterclass on market sophistication. But then the person is going to become product aware, right? And so what you want to do with your marketing is you want to make them aware of all of these different stages, and you want to have the handoff. You want to hand them off to your sales team once they've already been made aware of all of this, not before. The problem is if you have someone that's, barely aware of your brand, that barely knows, they might know what problem they have and they might know why they have the problem, but if they're barely aware of your brand and they don't trust you, and there's other solutions in the market that they do trust, and they're not going to buy it. Like, they could get on a sales call. I don't know why they would show to that, but if they even show up to the sales call, the likelihood of them closing is going to be so much more lower compared to someone that's gone through all of the levels of awareness before the sales call. Okay? And so that's essentially what's going on when you create a high intent lead. Like, if you break it down, a high intent lead is someone that has gone through all of the levels of awareness, most of them at least, probably maybe not product aware, but they know that they have a problem. They know why they have that problem. They want to fix that problem. Like, it's important to them to do that. And they trust you to be able to solve that problem. And they have the financial capability to be able to do so. That is a high intent lead. Okay? And so the prospects that show up to a sales call unaware of their problems are the hardest to close, right? The prospects that don't trust you, that are still a little bit skeptical, are hardest to close. So how do you know if you're talking to a skeptical prospect? It's pretty easy to figure out. Like, if you've ever been on a sales call, let's say you try to get, let's say you talk to them, you ask them about their problem, they give you a problem, let's say I'm talking to the weight loss person. I'm like, okay, well, what's the biggest thing holding you back from actually losing 30 pounds? I don't know. Let's say they don't give you the answer, or let's say they give you very short answers. Like it's very easy to figure out whether or not someone trusts you. And a lot of this does come down to the salesperson, their tonality, their intention, their skill set. That does have a role in that, but the marketing is going to do the most of the heavy lifting in that. And it's going to determine how the person goes into the sales call. Right? So I don't want to get into the whole sales skill thing, but if it's gonna really, really, really determine how the person goes into the sales call. And then from there, I'm just gonna assume you have good salespeople. If you don't, then that's fine. The whole point of this is, even if you do have shit salespeople, by them trusting your brand and your marketing, they're still wanting to buy and they'll still probably close. Okay? Now, to drive this back around, the ones who know what it is that stands in the way of achieving their goal and the solutions that solve it, right? They know how your solution solves their problem and they trust you to solve it. Those are the easiest to close. Those are the highest intent leads. And when you create a YouTube channel that optimizes for that, it just brings cash forward and allows you to scale a lot more profitably. Okay, this is just what I have seen working with people like Matt Ryder and other high-level entrepreneurs. So, you want to get less of the former and more of the latter on your sales calls. You want less low-intent leads. You want more high-intent leads. And that's going to make you more money. Okay?